Hello everybody and welcome back to the Healthy Orange Movie Reviews, the show where we bring you film criticism that is honest, insightful, and, not least of all, fun. I'm your host, Bennett Campbell Ferguson, and I'm joined today by Patrick Belin.
Hello. Patrick, talk about movies, and I'm really into Chris Nolan and his neo-film noir style.
Amen to that. And speaking of which, today we're talking about the 10th anniversary of Batman Begins. Yes, it's been a whole decade since Chris Nolan came out of the gate with that movie.
Right.
So, to get started, I want to know, what did you think of Batman Begins when you first saw it, and has your opinion changed all of it, has your opinion of it changed at all over the years?
No, not too much. I've seen it maybe half a dozen times in the last 10 years. It was groundbreaking in a lot of ways. Well, first of all, it took the series in a whole different direction.
Absolutely.
Secondly, I think Chris Nolan, well, not just Nolan, but the whole production staff did such a wonderful job with this. It's just one of those movies where all the elements just fell in place, like almost perfectly, that it kind of heralded a new generation or epoch in the way Hollywood presents these superhero movies.
I kind of like an interesting, weird journey with this movie.
Mm-hmm.
I was not a fan of it when I first saw it, and then for many years I was not that into his movies. I didn't care for The Prestige or The Dark Knight, and then I saw Inception, and I was just absolutely hooked. I fell in love with his whole style.
Mm-hmm.
And it made me go back and watch all of his movies, and I ultimately came to love all of them, including Batman Begins.
Wait. First, you saw Batman Begins and then Inception, and then his previous films?
Yeah, exactly.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've been a Nolan nerd even before Batman Begins came out.
You're kidding?
So I was really interested in the movie when it first came out.
So was the first one you saw, was it Following or Memento?
Memento was the first one I saw.
Oh, okay.
I've never seen Following yet, but I want to. It's on my Netflix queue.
Oh, it's good. It's really good.
Is it?
One thing that I think is interesting, this brings to mind what I think makes the first one really different than the next two, is that through Batman Begins, you're really inside Bruce Wayne's head.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's all about how it is, who he is as a human being, and even with the crazy hallucinogenic images of the Scarecrow. That's a technique of kind of putting you inside Bruce Wayne and feeling his fears. Mm-hmm. You really don't get that at all with the second film. The second film was really about Gotham as a whole,
right,
and the threat of the Joker, and then you with the third film, they kind of came back a little bit to some of the motifs of Batman Begins, or it was a little bit more about him as a human being. I feel like you get the trial of him climbing out of the pit,
mm-hmm,
but it still wasn't. The story still wasn't as linked as strongly to him. So that's one reason why I like you said, I continue to feel drawn to the first one in a lot of ways, because it's a really intimate movie.
Sure. Right. It was about Batman.
It was
completely
yes.
about Batman.
Yeah.
Batman Begins. It's an origin story. That's how it's supposed to be.
Right.
Whereas in the sequel, they of course they expanded it a bit, and they introduced his arch nemesis. They had to.
Yes, absolutely.
Because,
yeah.
Of course, in the first film, we saw the origin of Batman, and we saw him begin and just emerge as Batman. The second film was to prove what he's made of, and the only way you can do that is to introduce an arch nemesis.
Right.
The complete one. I don't know. Well, we can talk about the relationship between Joker and Batman all day.
Oh yeah.
Now, in that respect, what is the main idea in Batman?
In Batman Begins.
Batman Begins, right? What made it unique? Unique in a Nolan sense that fits into his style of work.
Oh yeah, gotcha. I think a lot of things. I mean, like so many of his signature tropes pop up there, and I mean in this case I mean tropes in a good way because I love all his tropes. But one thing, I mean, dialogue has always been really important to him. I mean, one thing he really likes to do is he loves to have characters talk about ideas. You know, like
yes, true.
Like that scene you mentioned. You know, guy dresses up like a bat, clearly has issues. You know, these patrons at this restaurant, they're sitting there and it's not idle chatter. They're having a debate about justice and vigilantism. I mean, and that's that kind of sort of very like frank talk about these philosophical ideas. That was something he always did. I mean, obviously Memento with all the talk about memory and how much do I want to remember, how much do I want to trick myself, and in Insomnia, where they're talking about morality and how far do you go in the pursuit of justice. And I think, I mean, there are a lot of like Nolanisms in Batman Begins. I think that was a big one, and that was one thing that you wouldn't get in any other movie at the time, because I think most directors or producers would say either that kind of philosophizing it's either too on the nose or people just don't care. Whereas I think Christopher Nolan was saying, I care about these ideas. I care about these ideas about fear and justice and right and wrong, and I care about talking about them in kind of a frank way that's gonna challenge audiences and be pretty easy for them to absorb and understand.
There's definitely a lot of philosophizing in Batman Begins.
Yeah.
I feel like on a script level, they basically deconstructed what the Batman character is.
Right,
like what
right.
it means to be. I mean, they going back to when Bruce Wayne was training in the mountains, he was basically a ninja.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Sure.
Became a ninja epic for a second.
Yeah. Sure. He's the Batman later in the movie, but he's actually just a ninja.
Yeah.
And then you had Liam Neeson's character kind of like spout off this philosophy of what it means to be a warrior and all that.
Right. Yes.
So, yeah, I certainly see that as part of Nolan's signature. But yeah, going back to my other question is considering Nolan's work and what makes Batman Begins stand out.
From his other films?
Right. Or what makes it unique anyways as a Christopher Nolan movie, next standing alongside Inception and Interstellar and the other movies, is this idea of ignoring the fact that Batman is originally a comic book. He blurred the lines between reality and the comic book reality.
Sure.
He made that whole universe much less of a comic book, which was completely different from what the previous 4 Batman films were. They were very much comic book films. Tim Burton's movies, Joel Schumacher's movies.
Right. In a way, all of Tim Burton's films are
clearly
comic books.
Comic book movies. I mean, the only thing missing from like Joel Schumacher's movies was that it wasn't animated. It could have been an animated film, but it just.
And it probably still would have been horrendous.
Yeah, exactly. And it would have been basically that. But so that's what Nolan brought to the table, and I think to me that's what defines his version of Batman. And of course, the 2 sequels are just extensions of that.
Right, I agree.